Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to take a look at this extremely cool looking Diplodocus figure. However, the origins of this figure are a total mystery to me. I absolutely have no idea who makes this figure at all. No clue. It is labeled kind of on Aliexpress and eBay, similar to all of the random bootlegs that they have on there, like the Papo and Safari and Collect Day bootlegs and everything that they have littered all over Aliexpress and eBay. But again, it really just does not tell me who makes this figure, which is unfortunate because so many of those figures on there are such a mystery to me, and it's sad because I think there's so many very cool figures that definitely have a good sense of originality to them. I am really quite excited about it, honestly, because I didn't expect it to be as large as it is, so when I actually got it in the mail and opened it up, I was really quite blown away and impressed by its overall size. The paint apps definitely leave something to be desired, but it is still really cool looking, so let's go ahead and get a closer look at it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see that the head sculpt is pretty decent looking. I mean, it's not amazing, it's not perfect or anything like that, but it still definitely has a decent appearance to it as far as the sculpt goes. The eyes are pretty sloppily painted. You can see it's painted with like a yellow rim, and then it looks to be either a dark black or maybe the same dark blue that borders around the pupil, and the pupil is actually white, which is very strange, and I think it definitely gives the overall head quite a strange appearance, honestly. You can see that over here as well, and the actual yellow that borders around the eye area is kind of sloppy, really splotched quite everywhere. So I'm not a big fan of the eye paint, that's for sure. But I think that the sculpt of the head is a little muted as far as the fine details go, but it's still pretty decent, and it may just look muted because the paint that they have on here has a very strong gloss to it, so it kind of shines away a lot of the detail, and in the light it's hard to actually pick up on just how nice the sculpt is. I think I'm going to repaint this, even though it does still look pretty cool overall. It's not the greatest, that's for sure, but it has a very interesting look as far as the paint goes, but I feel like with a nice realistic looking paint scheme, this could look really incredible. As we start to lead down the neck, you can see that the scaling is really beautiful for sure. The underside of the neck is a little bit, again, muted as far as the detail goes. It's kind of smooth for the most part, but it does still sport some decent sculpt. And again, the coloration is really bright as far as that white goes, and it might just be kind of hard to take note of what type of detailing we're dealing with on the underside. You can see it a little bit. You can definitely get a sense of a lot of movement in the neck of the Apatosaurus. When I kind of tilt it here from the side, you can really sort of pick up on the detailing a bit there, but as far as like the skin texture, you're not really seeing too much going on. If you look at the overall sculpting, though, of the neck, it does appear to be really nicely sculpted as far as the scaling and everything. You've also got those ridges that run along the spine, similar to what we often see associated with a Diplodocus. Once you get down here to the base of the neck, you've got quite a bit of wrinkling going on as far as skin wrinkles there. And then you can see the shoulder blade really nicely up here, the very thick, very strong upper part of the leg, and definitely the bones protruding a little bit from the skin there. Really nice skin texture, once again, very beautiful scaling as we run down into the front leg. And then again here, because of this being so bright, it really kind of drowns out the detail, and you can't exactly get an idea of how nice the sculpt and detail is of the figure because of it. But I really do feel like maybe a repaint would do this thing wonders. If you look up here in the back, you can again see how nicely done the scaling is and everything all over the place. You've got this really bright white stripe that runs through the midsection. It's definitely fairly beefy, so it's a well-fed dinosaur, that's for sure. You can again see some nice skin wrinkling and skin folding going on there. A little bit of the skin pulling off the body right in this general vicinity, showing some of the movement. Same back here with this leg stretching back, it's stretching the skin a bit there. You can also sort of pick up on the rib cage ever so slightly, and again some wrinkling of the skin and everything in there. You also can see a seam right here where the body is put together, and it's definitely visible on the underside, and that's because this is actually a squishy type of a figure, similar to what you would get with like a recur figure, or maybe one of those National Geographic figures. It definitely has that very same soft feel to it, which is interesting. I guess it's good to buy for your kids to not hurt each other with. As you get back here, you can see the hip bone there a little bit. really nice muscle tone here in the thigh, and you can see the kneecap is present there. As we get down into the leg sculpt again is hard to take note to, but the skin detail does appear to be pretty darn nice, I will say that. The nails aren't the perfectly painted nails you would expect to find. They're a little bit sloppy, but as we come out here into the tail, you can see lots of wrinkling going on here. The same type of wrinkling runs out the majority of the tail. You can see again that really nice scaling, and the tail is definitely very long. Runs out to a really nice point there at the end. If we look at the opposing side, the neck is turned a little bit to its left there, so you could probably see maybe a little more of the skin stretching over here, but not really too much going on. Maybe if, again, it wasn't so glossy, I might be able to pick up on the detailing a bit better and be able to tell more about what's going on when it comes to the movement being shown in the body of the animal, but on this side it primarily looks kind of just the same as it did over there. You can see, again, those skin wrinkles at the base of the neck. Very nice muscle tone in the shoulder blade there, protruding from the skin a bit. This leg is back, pushing into the body a little bit there. You can kind of see the skin wrinkling up a bit. And the same deal over here. It's not super highly detailed like you might see on a lot of other figures, but it definitely still looks quite nice. You see that really beautiful scale work up here again. And again, see the rib cage ever so slightly in the midsection. Some skin folding again down here. There's the hip bone and the very nice musculature of the thigh area. The feet are, again, not perfectly painted when it comes to the nails, but definitely pretty close. It's actually not that bad, although if we look over here, the rear of the nail is not painted at all. And then we've got the wrinkles again here behind the tail as we run out the length of the tail to a very nice point out here. The underside sports some decent sculpt and detail, but it's really almost hard to pick up on, and it's a little tough to see due to that very, very bright white coloration. Again, this being that softer material, it allows you to really bend the body all over the place, so there is a good amount of playability with the figure, and it seems pretty durable. It doesn't seem like it's made poorly or any type of a fragile figure. It does really seem quite well made. As far as a size goes, and again, I was saying it is quite large, and I believe it's only about $20 to buy this figure. From the head to the tail, it's actually about 21.5 inches, or about 55, maybe 54.5 centimeters, somewhere in that range for a length, so it's a very sizable figure. As far as a height goes, to the neck, you're looking at about just under 5 inches, or around 12 centimeters, and for the back, just under 5 inches, or about 12.5 centimeters, somewhere in that range. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, and you can definitely tell now that this figure has a very large size to it in comparison to him. And there's actually another version of this dinosaur figure on Aliexpress that I'm probably going to buy. That I believe it's about $30, and it's actually looks to be almost twice the size of this one, so that one is probably gigantic. And I think the sculpt of that one is very similar to this one, but it has its neck and tail in a slightly different position and a different paint scheme. But you can definitely see that even at this $20 version here, it's still really quite a big figure and definitely packs a lot of size. So I think this figure is definitely really quite cool. It definitely is really beautifully detailed, that's for sure. For the most part, I think that the scale work on it is really, really well done. And overall, there is a good bit of movement shown throughout the dinosaur. A lot of really beautiful, very fine detailing going on all over the place. I think that it definitely resembles a Diplodocus pretty well. It has a decent sculpt and definitely has a lot of size to it, which is a big selling point in my opinion. As far as how nice this figure is overall, it's definitely a lot of bang for your buck. At $20, this is a huge figure, that's for sure. I don't think the paint scheme is very good. I think it's way too glossy. I do not like glossy appearances on a lot of my dinosaur figures. Once in a while, you'll get the exceptions where they actually look decent with a gloss, but a sauropod would not be one of them, and that is unfortunate with this one. It's very, very glossy. I think the color scheme they went with the white kind of splotchiness and that nice white stripe that runs along the side, looks pretty cool. It's just not the most realistic coloration with those blues, but at least the blues and everything are a darker shade. I think if this were applied in a more realistic manner, it could be a pretty cool looking color scheme for an Apatosaurus. It's just not perfect and not exactly what I would like to see on an Apatosaurus. But again, it could be something that they potentially had, or at least something similar to what they potentially had. So the paint application isn't the best. The eyes are definitely really sloppy. The paint applied doesn't look super natural. It looks a little bit more like paint than body color, but at the same time, certain areas do look pretty natural, like the transitions from those dark bluish type black colors on the upper part of the back to that slightly lighter blue there on the lower part of the body does look pretty nice, pretty natural, but for the most part, I'm not a huge fan of the paint scheme. The sculpt is definitely really cool. The size is really awesome as well. You get a very large figure for a decent amount of money, and the fact that it's a softer figure similar to a recur figure is quite interesting, and again, something that could be good for kids as they wouldn't hurt each other too much, but considering I don't know its origins, I don't know how safe the paint is or anything on this figure, so I don't know if I would really recommend you buying it for your kids, because again, a lot of the paints used on figures overseas as far as like bootlegs and everything go, it's really not safe for children to have at all, so I can't really recommend it in that sense, considering I don't know the origins or who created it or anything like that. But as far as a very cool Diplodocus figure goes, this is definitely a decent version. So if you want to pick this up, I will link you guys to where I bought it on Aliexpress, where you can go ahead and do that if you would like. So buy this Diplodocus if you are in fact interested, but before you do that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.